Hey everybody, I wanted to tune in today on this amazingly beautiful day here on the East Coast. And I thought I'd share with you guys some of my favorite tips and tricks on how to stay cool, calm, and collected this summer so that you can have like the best summer ever. So I wanted to ask you a question to start off with is have you ever noticed how some people are really good at staying like cool and calm in difficult situations, and then other people the same thing will happen and they'll totally freak out? Or you'll find yourself being like super cool, calm and collected, and you're like super impressed with yourself, and then other days it's like shit hits the fan and you can't even recognize yourself. Totally flip out. Well, one of the things that I wanted to share with you guys today that I've been learning and I've been kind of discovering over the last decade, so to speak, is just what the secret ingredient is to remaining in control of your life, getting to choose what you want your experience to be. So one of the core reasons why we lose control in the first place is not that we lose control of the situation, is that we lose control of our emotions. And what happens is the experience that we're faced with awakens something within us. We become triggered by that experience. And that is essentially where our triggers are being brought in from. So then we fall into our natural human responses, which is either the fight, flight, or freeze. And all of us will have our preferred natural response to whatever the situation might call for. But the difference between being able to stay cool and calm instead of going into that automatic subconscious behavior, kind of our Neanderthal behavior, if you will, where we totally freak out or we can't think of something a really good comeback to say, or we just totally want to run away from the situation instead of being able to easily face it, is what it triggers within us. So what one of my biggest suggestions, one of the biggest tools that I use to stay cool in the chaos, is to claim the position of observer. And what I've noticed when I do that is I decide how much or how little I want to engage with the situation. So let's say, like stuff's going down, you get some crazy stuff happening in your life. What we tend to do is we engage with the experience. We become a part of it, and then we become absorbed emotionally with the experience. Whenever I see something starting to unfold that's like, oh, this is like, a train derailment, I find the best tool that I can offer you is try to remain in the position of an observer. So try to stay kind of at arm's length around the situation so that you can be like, wow, okay, this is totally unfolding right now. How do I feel about it? Okay, I'm totally getting pissed off, or I'm totally freaking out, or I'm totally stressing out. So instead of becoming the fear or becoming the stress or becoming the overwhelm, you observe the fear. You observe the overwhelm. You're like, wow, I'm like really freaking out right now. Or wow, that totally pissed me off. And what happens is you become and you stay in control of the emotion, and instead of the emotion controlling you. I think that's like the number one reason so many of us have difficulty with dealing with different people, dealing with ourselves, dealing with the stuff in our life, is because we become emotionally engaged with the things that we don't necessarily enjoy, and then it overpowers us. And then we feel like our thoughts and our feelings are controlling us, when in essence, we are the controllers. We're the ones driving the car. We're the ones having the thoughts, and we're the ones having the emotions. We get to experience them in whichever way that we want. Sure, you'll feel overwhelmed by fear and grief and worry. The trick is to become an observer. Now, does this happen overnight? Is this like a quick fix pill? Of course, it doesn't happen that way. It takes practice. And also, what I've done personally is I've made some radical shifts to my own way of life, so that these instances progressively get few and farther apart. So the second thing that I suggest and that I share a lot is, if you notice that there's something that's always triggering you, well, it's kind of like one of my sayings, if you will, is that salt doesn't sting unless there's an open wound. So if there's something that's always triggering you, well, then it's like your way of letting yourself know, hey, you know what, I have a wound here. Because somebody's throwing salt at you, it's not going to sting unless there's an open wound. There's something there that needs to be resolved, looked at. You have an underlying fear or worry that you need to come to terms with, let go, or, you know, overcome, whatever the case might be, depending on the situation. So one of or some of the few realizations that I had personally that I think might help you today to stay cool, calm, and collected is to start, one, by being the observer, and then two, by recognizing, okay, you know what, whenever this type of thing happens, I always go into this response. And ask yourself the question, why? Why do I respond in this way? How is that protecting me? How is, because that's your natural response, is you're always going to try to protect yourself. And then your subconscious program is going to decide, am I going to fight? And am I going to flight? Am I going to run away? Or am I going to totally get paralyzed? And so your subconscious programming decides what your reaction is going to be. And it's almost like someone else is driving the car. If you've had this situation before where somebody's totally pushed your buttons and then you're like, rah, 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 and then you kind of look back and go, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that to them. Or, and then you feel super bad about it, and then you're hard on yourself, and then you kind of live through that cycle. So that's what kind of happens is, I can't believe I said that. And it's like, well, consciously, you didn't actually do that or say that on purpose. Subconsciously, what happened is your program got triggered, and that was your automatic response that you have pre-programmed for situation A, for example. So one of the things to look at and to work on is, if you don't like the way that you're behaving out of response, then you need to address the program that created it in the first place, or the wound, if you will, that the salt is stinging. And then that way you can become, and you can stay more in charge and more in the driver's seat of your reactions and to the way that you experience your life. So that's like tip number 2, if you will. One thing that I realized, and actually one of my own mentors shared this with me a few years ago, or actually last year, and I've heard it before, but it just, for me, it really rang a bell. She said to me, you get to choose how much or how little you want to engage with the situation. And I thought, oh my God, that's so true. You know, like, just because I attracted or created or I ended up, you know, like interacting with this person and the conversation went in a direction that I wasn't, you know, expecting, or, you know, maybe something was said that wasn't intended, that was hurtful. You get to decide in every moment, you know what, this is not going where I want it to go, or this doesn't feel good. I'm going to step away from this situation, or I'm going to remain an observer to it at the least. So then that way I'm not, even though it's happening, doesn't mean that I need to play with it. I don't need to engage with it. I don't need to get in there on an emotional level. I can be an observer of it. So for me, that really, it took a while for that to sink in, because I'd heard that over the years, and I got the concept, but to apply it in a practical way, I struggled until one day, I think it was like last spring, if I remember correctly. It was just said in a way that it's finally like all that compounded information just kind of clicked for me. It was like, I get to decide how much or how little I want to engage in a situation, because it's my life. These are my feelings. I get to choose who I talk to, what I do, and you know, how much I want to get pissed off over a flat tire, for example. How much I want to be sad about something, or how much I get to engage or decide to engage with that emotion. Because one thing that I've noticed that we do a lot is we really identify with our emotions as being who we are. And we use this in our language too, like, I'm angry, I'm sad. Well, you know, just if you listen to the language, I am not angry. I'm a Nick who's having the experience, or who is experiencing anger. So it's still, you know, at arm's length. It's me having an experience. So just by being an observer and deciding how much I want to engage with that anger, how much I want to engage with that sadness, and the body tends to do that naturally too. It allows you to, when you have an overwhelming experience, you'll often shut down and become numb, because it's just too much emotion for you to be able to engage with all in one sitting. The negative side of that is that we stay numb, and then we stay in shock, and then we just kind of that creates another problem. Anyways, we have coping mechanisms to deal with too much or overwhelm of emotion, but you can actually do that on purpose and go, wow, I'm super pissed off right now. Okay, well, that lit a fire somewhere. So instead of becoming angry and allowing that to be who I am, I stay an ick and witness the anger that comes within me, and I decide whether or not I want to interact with it. I decide whether or not I want that emotion to drive my behavior, my reaction, and how I communicate or express myself to other people. And I also get to decide whether or not, I'm way too pissed off right now to even have a conversation about this. Not that it's, so I'm going to remove myself from the situation, and I'll come back to it when I've made peace with the emotion, so that we can have a human adult, communication about whatever it is. Something else that I want to share with you is, and we've all had crap in our life. We've all had crazy experiences that just suck. Let's just be honest. We've all had our turmoil. We've all had our trauma, some more than others. Something that I have learned through the experiences that I've had in my life that were not so fun is that no matter how fierce the storm, there's always an eye of the hurricane. So what I would suggest is find that eye and manage your experience from that space. And I'll give you a little hint. It lives inside of you. And this is why I'm such a meditation promoter, or whatever, journaling or even gardening or any type of something that you're repeating on a regular basis. So anything where you get in your zone, you can consider that your type of meditation. I used to do what I call meditation in motion. I didn't even know I was doing it at the time, but for years I'd go for long walks and I would just kind of get into that space. And so whatever it is for you, if you're having an experience that's totally out of your control, there's somebody sick or that you're sick and that you feel that you're not empowered, the first thing that you can do to feel in control is to find that sacred space within you and manage your experience and how you feel about it from that space. Something else that you'll hear a lot, all of the gurus are saying it, and it doesn't, the words themselves almost don't express fully and completely what it means, but I'll let you to contemplate this, and some of you might know exactly what I mean, is to remember that nothing is happening to you. You are experiencing life, not the other way around. So you happen to life. Life doesn't happen to you. And I know that sometimes it totally feels the other way, but you're here having an experience instead of an experience happening to you. Again, you get to decide how much you want to engage with it. You get to decide what you want to think about it, how you want to feel about it, and how you get to behave. Those are pretty much let me just sum up your free will for you. You get those three things. There's three things you get in life. You get to decide what you want to think, how you want to feel, and how you choose to behave. That's all you get. Everything else is up to everybody else. You can't decide what your husband thinks or what you want your husband to feel or behave, although we might try, right? But the truth is that we only get to own us. That's all we get. We can't even tell our kids what to do half of the time, right? We can encourage them and give them guidance, but at the end of the day, if they're going to be sad, they're going to be sad. They're going to be happy, they're going to be happy. So we just try our best, right? And we try our best by owning us, by starting with us. And when we are in a really, really good position, well, then we create that space for others to join us. So I know this isn't a quick fix, but another little tidbit that I wanted to share with you guys today was, if you're clear on your priorities, then it really helps you to decide what you want to do with that particular situation that you're faced with, right? So the simplest way to diffuse a situation is to go, how important is this to me? Because we'll get all caught up in emotion and then we'll fight the good fight. And we're like, you know what? I'm fighting over toothpaste, or I'm fighting over a dirty spoon on the counter. And so if your priority is to have a happy, joyful life, and having this argument doesn't align with you being joyful, well, then you need to ask yourself a really simple question. Does this choice or behavior bring me closer to joy? And you can insert whatever your desired emotion is. It could be happiness, love, peace, whatever. I like to use joy because joy kind of embodies all of those. So whenever you're having a situation, your mother or you would have heard it's called picking your battles, right? So like check in on your priorities. Like what's more important to you? And what comes to mind is that meme where you'll see it everywhere. It's like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Comes to mind. So sometimes you have to really reflect on that and go, you know what, like, is this getting angry about this thing worth stealing my joy? Because essentially that's what you're doing. If you're engaging and you're giving yourself permission, if you will, not permission, but if you're engaging with anger or discomfort, or you're fighting for something that at the end of the day, it doesn't change you having a joyful experience, well, then you need to really look at your priorities, because within your priorities, it will help you to really determine whether or not having that argument is beneficial to you in the first place. So now, I know this isn't a quick fix. These are all things for you to contemplate and to kind of recognize. I know that for me, it took these seeds to be planted over a few decades before they really started to be able to become implanted and rooted in my lifestyle, and to a point where I apply them in a practical way. So what I'm hoping is that these suggestions, this awareness, this point of view, if you will help you to make a dent in what you experience on the level of chaos. And then, if you get just a little bit more joy this summer, I'll consider that worth the share. But remember, in the grand scheme of things, the most important thing that you can do is just to break up with the stuff that in your life that creates turmoil for you in the first place. And also heal the things that you have outstanding, if you will, that whenever there's some sand or salt flying around, those wounds sting. So like, heal your wounds and get rid of the shit that's not working for you. Now, I'm not saying, quit your job or leave your husband, or unless that's appropriate for you. But what I'm getting at is purging the thoughts, feelings, and emotions and behaviors that don't reflect your inner joy junkie and the life that you actually want to lead. What results in that is the landscape of your life becomes dramatically changed to reflect those choices. So, like, if you don't like what you see in your life, well, then you need to ask yourself, why am I saying yes to these things that suck? So I want you to kind of contemplate that. And the next time shit hits the fan, because it's going to happen, whenever you're freaking out, your kids aren't listening, the first thing I would recommend, like, here's like a Nixie, take a breath. In the breath, take a breath and like hold it for like 2 or 3 seconds. Just like take a breath, hold it, let it go, and then decide how you want to deal with the situation. Because honestly, guys, like, unless your house is on fire, you always have enough time to take like at least 2 breaths before you deal with the situation, unless, kids are throwing milk, or there's always those situations. But you can, and then you'll have like the common one that Tina mentions here, count to 10. So that one is great. Sometimes we just count to 10 and we forget to be mindful about it. So I find the breath is a really, really great one, because when you're holding your breath, your actual subconscious program is like, the most important thing is breathing, which is survival. So all the emotion of the anger and all the other stuff that's coming up is trumped by the fact that you're holding your breath. So I find, and so let me just share some breath work exercise with you that I use a lot, especially when shit's hitting the fan, and you can do this everywhere. For those of you who know me, I used to work in the stock market for like a couple decades almost, and we used to do like some super big trades, and so at the push of the button it was like up 20 million, down 20 million. So high level stress is not something that I haven't seen. So what I started to develop without even knowing it was a thing was it would actually start just to take some breaths and then hold them and then let them go. And that's actually super, super powerful, because it lets you reclaim that inner sanctuary that lives within you. So if you do 1 breath and then you're starting to feel more like your normal self, or you need 5 breaths to do it, or you need to take 5 breaths, take a break, and then do 5 breaths again, you know what your normalness feels like. So that would be my super quick tips. I guess I gave you guys a lot of tips today, but I hope that, you know, it's kind of like a gardener. Throw lots of seeds, and maybe one will take, you'll resonate with one of them, and it'll be something that you can apply in your life. So what I'm hoping is that, you know, for me, there's been no doubt that everything that I experience is somehow seated, if you will, within me. So exactly how sometimes is kind of always the journey, but it always helps me to come to appreciate each experience at a later time. So if something bad happens that I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't realize I was that strong. So sometimes it takes the reflection of the experience to show me and guide me to a deeper and deeper depth of who I am authentically. I know I'm not the person freaking out. That's not who I am. That's my emotion. I know I'm not the person losing my patience. That's my emotion. You know, like, so who you are authentically is that best version of yourself. And the experience that you have that's not in alignment with that is just representative of all of your literally accumulated shit that you've had over your life, all of your wounds, bumps, and bruises from life, and all of your subconscious programs where you've learned how to deal with these situations. So really kind of a fun one one of the memes I posted in my Dream Life Mastermind I think it was last week, was and it was Dom Ross that said this, and I thought it really, really spoke very clearly. It said, if you think you're enlightened, spend a week with your parents. And I thought that was really very so on the point, because it's when you are reacting and you're using those subconscious programs in certain situations where they kind of take over. Those are learned behaviors that you learned when you were 0 to 7. And often, if you see how you react or engage with difficulty, it will often mimic or represent the same way that your parents dealt with difficulty in their life. It's not always the case. Sometimes we like to make our own personal twist to it, but it was really interesting when I started to reflect that I had my own blend of between, you know, like both my parents and what I've seen in my life, and how I react to it was kind of my own unique version of those reactions. So I want you guys to, if you're on the East Coast, enjoy this amazing day, because we've waited so long for winter, so it's finally here. So I hope you guys enjoy a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. I hope these tips and tricks have helped you to stay cool, calm, and collected. If you'd like some more quick tips on being your best awesome self that I know lives within you and just covered up with shit, feel free to join my Dream Life Mastermind. I'll pop the link in there in the comments if some of this rang true to you or if it helped. I'm always posting some supportive things in my private mastermind group. And as well, something super exciting, we're doing a reveal party, and as much as I love to keep secrets, not to keep secrets, but as much as I love being in the know, I'm having a really hard time not spilling the beans on this one because I'm so excited. So it's July 12th, 6:30 to 8:30 at our center here at 492 High Street at Full Circle Wellness Center. And we've been working on this super secret project forever, is what it feels like. And we're going to have a charity barbecue. So proceeds are going to the Humanity Project. So if you want to come over, have some food, have some cake, because we're going to be celebrating the launch of our amazing secret project that we'll be unveiling on July 12th. So that's coming up. So if you are not in the area, because I know some of my followers are on the East Coast, don't fret. There's actually a process for virtual login for you. We're going to have virtual door prizes, which I think is like super techie cool. And we're going to have some physical, actual door prizes. We've got a whole lineup of super awesome sauce door prizes from different companies. And we're going to be giving away like thousands of bucks worth of stuff. So if you want to pop in on July 12th and share this exciting adventure with us and be part of the unveiling of this secret sauce project that we've been working on. We'd love to have you. You can pop in, bring your kids. It's our kids going to be here, so it's going to just be really a fun cash thing. We're going to have an opening ceremony, a special presentation. We're going to have the big reveal. We're going to have some cake. We're going to eat some burgers. We're going to do all sorts of yummy, delicious things. So if you want to be part of that, I'll pop in the invite for that too in the comments so that you have that as well. So anyways, thanks for joining in. I hope you're having a super delicious day. It's Friday. So enjoy your day and love y'all. Bye.